I think you're a real hero, and most real heroes won't admit it.
Yeah, it's just something that you're called to do, and you're pleased and honored to do it. So,
That's beautiful. So, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell me who you are and what you do?
okay. So my name is Brad Fox. I'm a retired junior high school science teacher, a Christian. Been in this community for about 33 years, built my own home here, raised my family here, and I work with the homeless. And I've been working with the homeless since probably 2005, started in the Ensenada, Mexico area, worked my way up to a mission trip in downtown San Diego, where we basically educated ourselves about homelessness using the homeless narratives themselves. We would talk to people on the street, we would take them hygiene packs and open conversations with them, give them clothing, and just find out what homelessness looked like from the inside out. At one point, I had some people in my church come forward and ask me, well, this is all well and good. We're glad you're doing that with the youth and with adults, and they're learning a lot about their society, but what about helping the homeless in Fallbrook? And I really didn't have an answer for them. This is probably in, I want to say 2015 or so. And so I decided to create an ad hoc committee with my church, and that ad hoc committee studied homeless people and what their issues were. We got to know some homeless people. We included many of the churches in Fallbrook, enlisted their help, got other leaders involved, and started meeting on a regular basis, talking about homeless issues, and it's basically taken off. We've done a homeless outreach project here in Fallbrook for, gosh, I guess about 3 years now. I think it was the third Friday of every month we would meet at the Apostolic Assembly Church and provide warm food and clothing selections, bathing, counseling with professional counselors from the San Diego County, and also vaccinations and bicycle repair, pretty much anything you can imagine that the homeless could use. And of course, we've been shut down by COVID for about a year. We haven't been able to do that large group work, so we've kind of had to refine our work and start working more with individuals. Even that's been cut back somewhat, but we've had some successes in getting people off the street or getting them into rehab. We even have some people that we've helped get permanent housing. So it's a work of love. I'm kind of a underdog champion. I really like helping people restore their lives. I have a disabled brother, adult brother, Kim, and he's been very instrumental and very inspirational to me in helping me understand what it's like to be on the outside looking in. So why do I do it? Well, to honor Kim, to really help the community understand that homelessness is a systemic problem. It's not something that is the duty of a few zealots or some professionals, maybe county government or the police. It's just everybody's duty, from kids to adults, private sector. We all need to be involved with homelessness in some manner of speaking or another. We're only going to lick this if we see each other as humans, and right now that's not really happening. The homeless are being, to some degree, set aside and left to their own abilities to figure out what's wrong, and we push them over into the professional realm, to the counselors, the county specialists that work with homeless. And that goes a certain distance, you know, the housing programs, that goes a certain distance, but really we really need to restore relationships in our community and see these people as just like you and I, because they are. They're human beings that need help, and we need help too. We need to see them in the true light of who they are as real people who can be not just deficits on society, but actually assets to society. They're our best assets. So I think we're in the restoration business. We're not in the repair business, but restoring people to their God-given abilities, and that way they can become interdependent with the rest of us in society, and you can just build a better society that way, I believe.
Well, that's all very wonderful, and I can tell that you're passionate about, and you feel in your heart that you're doing this great thing, and you know it's the right thing to do, and that's probably why you're doing it. It's the right thing to do. Now, with all these displaced people and all the challenges, what are some of the biggest ones that you find yourself in?
Well, some of the challenges are the people themselves. People are chronically involved with substance abuse. It's become a chronic lifestyle for them. They don't know that they have this issue. They don't really see a way out. It's just a way to medicate their pain, anesthetize their pain. And so for some people, you're really not talking to the person, you're talking to the substance. And it's really difficult to make any progress that way. You have to catch them in a moment when they're off substance. Some people have been so beat down by social relationships or job losses or relational losses, what have you, health losses, that they can't find a way out. They can't help themselves up. They can't lift themselves up by the bootstraps. So we come along, we try to engage them in relationship, talking to them. It's very expensive time-wise. It takes weeks and months, often years, to help somebody come around and see that they have potential. I think one of the greatest, probably unseen problems that I confront is community ignorance, I guess you could say. People are really not aware of what the issues are in homelessness. They just listen to the sound bites on TV. They figure, well, somebody's building housing. Homelessness can be solved with housing, therefore I'm on autopilot. I assume that somebody's taking care of the problem. And then they get upset when they don't see progress made, when they continue to see people on the street. Fallbrook doesn't have a terrible problem compared to some surrounding communities, but it's a stain on our community when we have people here who are hurting, whether it's their fault or society's fault. It's still an issue that needs to be addressed, and we need to help people get out of their situation and get on with a productive life.
Now, do you work closely with the mental health facility here in Fallbrook?
I don't work closely with those in Fallbrook per se. We have a variety of nonprofits in North County, such as Interfaith Services in Escondido and Brother Benno's in Oceanside. There's an Exodus program. There's a Los Campanas program. Various programs throughout the county that we work with, and it's a very loose connection. We primarily work through our counselors that we have through the McAllister Institute, and they are the county subcontractor for homeless issues. So anytime you see a governmental group interacting with the homeless, it's probably a McAllister caseworker, and also Sheriff's HARP team, homeless assistance and response team. We have PERT people who come, psychological emergency response team, so they'll come and interview people. So we work hand in hand with these people, and we refer back and forth. They will call me if they have somebody in Fallbrook that needs a little extra help, and I'll refer people to them who they may not have seen yet, and people that they can do something for, like housing or counseling or substance abuse rehab, something like that.
Now, have you ever worked with the Salvation Army or Father Carroll or any of these other?
I have not worked with those agencies. We're pretty much a homemade nonprofit volunteer program. It's an amalgam of Christians and secular folk who just want to see the condition of their fellow man improve. We don't always go with the big agencies like Father Joe's downtown San Diego. We wouldn't be using them. We try to use people that are more local if we can.
Okay, now if you were going to ask your fellow Fallbrookians an ask, what would be your ask?
I would like to ask them to become aware of what the homeless issues are, not just take what's written on the opinion page or on the front page as fact, because a lot of emphasis in homelessness is on material things. And my reading and my studying leads me to understand that material things have a place to play, or a part to play in restoring people to society. A lot of people say, well, you've got to get them housed and sheltered first before they can really begin their rehab work. And I would tend to disagree, not for all people, but for the many people that I know, to give them a roof over their head, they wouldn't take good advantage of it. They really don't know how to return to a sheltered world. They've been away from it for so long, so they're not used to housekeeping, clean sheets, withdrawing from substance use, the responsibility of a job, the responsibility to neighbors, washing and keeping your clothing looking well, grocery shopping. A lot of these people just don't have these skills. They never got them. And so I would ask the public to become educated about homelessness. And I think, I was just discussing with Leila McDonald this morning from the Chamber of Commerce that we would like to do a community-wide forum addressing homeless issues and get some of the professionals and volunteers out there, and even some of the homeless themselves, and start creating a new image of homelessness in our community that is maybe more thorough, more complete, so people can see for themselves that the situation is being addressed and what their part in it, most importantly, what their part in it might be. So yeah, it's an education factor for me. I guess as a teacher, that's why I'm here. I think COVID was a huge pause button for homeless work. First of all, there was nobody going into rehab or coming out of rehab. They wouldn't allow it because the unknowns last March were so great that they couldn't, under law basically, or under strong governmental insistence, that nobody changed places, nobody engaged each other physically. So we had a lot of people, U.S. citizens who were homeless, that happened to get stimulus checks. And so a lot of those people have left town and are spending the money. A lot of them were given housing vouchers for motels. I know of one man that's been in there just about a year now in a motel in Vista. And I don't think he's made any progress. I think he still has substance issues. He's living comfortably. I assume he has enough money to eat and get by. He's probably doesn't have a whole lot of clothing, but he has a roof over his head, and he's just paused right now. And I know of a younger woman who's in the same situation. She just hasn't made any commitment to change. So yeah, it's been a problem. The homeless that are left here in town are, a lot of them are, in my understanding or my perception, they are probably non-citizens. They're probably Hispanics who don't have access to the stimulus money, so they've stayed around. But the population, in my mind, has gone way down. A lot of the Anglos have left town, although there's a smattering that are still left.
You said that your brother inspired you. Would you explain that to me?
Well, my brother's had cerebral palsy from birth. He was born normally and had a blood incompatibility with my mother, which was not understood in 1952. So he went through a problem with oxygenation of his blood. He was anemic, and all he needed was a transfusion in that first 12 hours or so, and he didn't get it. And so parts of his brain started dying. So he started life out normally for the first few hours, and then ever since then has had cerebral palsy, gross motor and fine motor problems, balance issues. He's epileptic, controlled epileptic, and he's just had a lot of health issues over the years. and I see myself as being the brother that had everything that he didn't. And so I always want to make sure that I use my life respectfully and honorably as a way to give God thanks for the wonderful body and mind that I have. I want to do things that Kim can't do for himself. I guess in a way I want to make my little brother proud, and also my parents as well. But I think there's a larger issue of honoring God and thanking God for my life. I feel kind of like the Samaritan on the road in the Bible who came upon an injured man, and he had several questions. What will happen to me if I help him? And in fact, two other men had passed that way and asked the same question. And eventually the Samaritan got around to, what will happen to him if I don't help him? Well, he's probably going to die, and then he'd have to live with that eventuality for the rest of his life. He'd always walk that road and think of that man, wonder what happened to that man. And finally he came, I think, upon the best question of all is, what would happen to him? What would happen to me if I don't help him? And I think that is a question that I always ask myself when working with the homeless. What if I don't intervene? What if I don't step up? What if I just let this happen? How will that person's life play out? And I'm aware that just little helps, little pushes, little encouragements along the way can really help people. Sometimes people just need to be recognized for that as a person who has value and importance, somebody who's loved. There's just not enough love in the world between people, and so I like to be that person. And as a retired teacher, that's probably the best way I can spend my life, because I'm used to spending time with students. I'm used to spending time with students who have challenges, and I like to work with them and see them through. We usually work for 9 straight months. So I'm used to the long-term patience and challenges as we work with people to improve their lives. And I see, I've gotten to see the light turn on in students, and I like to see the light turn on in adults that, hey, I can be a participating, contributing, productive citizen of society. And I've seen it in people.
It's magical, isn't it?
Yep. It really is. So, yeah, a combination of all these relationships I've had with my parents, with my disabled brother, with God. These are the things that fuel me and keep me going in spite of all the other challenges.
That's beautiful. When people ask me, what inspired me to do what I do, I like to tell them, or how do I continue when things get so tough, and I've faced so many insurmountable, obstacles. And I tell them, in the spirit of my family, in the spirit of my brother and my mom, I want to continue on. I want them to look down and know that I'm carrying on, and that I'm not caving into the, to the easy way out.
Right.
That I do step up to the plate and go the extra mile. And I have some pretty challenging people I work with in the neurodiverse world. So I can imagine that you're probably working, a lot of those homeless people you're working with are people that I've been working with.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I think that, do you believe this as well, that a lot of people that are homeless do have some sort of mental challenge?
I think there's a great percentage of a significant percentage.
And what do you think about the fact that, what was it in the 80s when they started closing down all these facilities, and a lot of these people ended up with nothing, didn't have anywhere to go? Do you think that plays a big part in the increase in our homeless population?
It's curious that you should ask me that question, because as a 16-year-old in about 1965, I wrote a letter to then Governor Ronald Reagan, and I actually addressed it to his wife because I figured Ron Reagan would never see it, so I addressed it to his wife thinking she might have a better chance of seeing it. And I said, why are you closing the state hospitals? A lot of these people are desperate. They can't live independently on their own. They are so mentally sick, and they are sick. It's not a volitional choice. they can't live the life that they want to because of the way their body and brain is structured. So I wrote them a letter and I said, why are you doing this? And I can't even remember the response. It was some, neutral, hey, we appreciate your interest and your concern. We feel this is best for society. And it was an arrangement between the legislature and the governor's office. But they've been on the streets, and movies like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest notwithstanding, there were a lot of good things that came out of the state hospitals. That you had these homeless were not on the streets trying to fend for themselves. And there's always this tension between individual rights and group safety, and there's an interplay there. And I think we've gone too far on the individual rights. We've actually damaged people by just letting them live any which way they want to, and the rest of us see it. It's no secret. So I think we need to get back to group safety and group accountability, and that goes both ways. Accountability to the group and accountability of the group. So we like to say that we don't want to do things to the homeless or for the homeless. We like to do things with the homeless. We want to make it an interdependent relationship where we're helping them get better, but by the same token, they're helping us become more compassionate, more understanding, more realistic about how the world actually operates. And we're bringing together two estranged populations and this has gone on too long. It has to stop. We're all part of God's family, and we all need to be
accountable
and reunited, and just in relationship with each other.
Well, that's I agree 100%. Well, from Robin at Everything Fallbrook, I just want to honor you as a hero. You're doing some amazing work. You're doing the people's work. You're doing God's work. And I am extremely inspired by you. I've got many people that are very excited about seeing this piece. So we'll get this together and we'll get it published.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Robin.
And thank you. After all, we are all created equal. No one race is superior nor inferior from the other, and at the end of the day, we all belong to the same race, humanity.